The Carolina Panthers added a quarterback for FanFest this weekend. They finished up practice and saw a few names emerge as possible starters. The safety carousel continues, and the biggest battle in the youth movement has possibly taken an upturn. Want to find out what these moves are and whom the new quarterback of the Carolina Panthers was for FanFest? Stay tuned to find out on Growlin' and Prowlin'. Welcome back, all you growlers. Thank you all so much for joining us yet again on another edition of Growlin' and Prowlin'. Of course, you're growling with the one and only Mr. CeeLo, and I hope you guys had a great weekend. I sure did. If you're like me, living in the deep south, we are not thirsty.
Shut up!
We've been getting rain since Thursday, but it's cooled off the temperatures, you guys. We were at 70, I think it was 71.
What?
71 this weekend. So I hope you guys are enjoying that as well. I hope none of you are having to deal with flood conditions. If you are, our prayers go out to you, and we ask you to stay safe. But that didn't stop the Carolina Panthers from going out Saturday. And if any of you guys were able to get out there, you saw that there was some fun things that went on. And we also got to see some of the competitions that have really been going out and would have been really going to demonstrate what this team is possibly going to be within the next weeks coming up. Hopefully it's going to be a prelude to what's going to go on in 2025. But let us get into a little business. As you all know, we had a rough go at it a couple of days. As Friday went, we saw Nick Scorton take a day off because apparently he had an issue with a hamstring. And of course, Dave Candela spoke about it, saying that the young stud, whom we're hearing a lot of talk out of camp, that this guy's probably going to be starting. You know, he was a guy that was, the Panthers had a first round grade on. So getting that type of talent and being able to get him in the second round, really late second round, is imperative to get him healthy so that we can, definitely have that type of defense that is going to, unleash havoc and pound opponents. And which kind of leads me into practice on Friday, as the defense is really starting to show a type of dominance that we're hoping that is going to lead to wonderful things in 2025. I think the best way to describe it is David Newton of ESPN described it as quarterback Bryce Young dropped back on the final play of practice. He thought he saw rookie receiver Ted McMillan breaking free over the middle in the end zone, then threw a perfect strike to defensive back Shaw Smith-Wade. Now, let me just go ahead. And Candela said later he baited Bryce into the throw with some movement and came back and made a nice play. Now, a guy whom is really not, and now you heard me talk about him on my previous show, but let me say this, guys. If Shaw Smith-Wade is doing his thing like this, and we can get some pass rush on these guys, Panther Nation, all we need to do is do the one thing that we did at FanFest. We can win a lot of football games, and I'll allude to that later. But when you look at the way Shaw Smith-Wade has been playing, combined with Trevon Moehrig, as well as J.C. Horn, and the up and downs of Mike Jackson. And I'm not even going to say up and downs. I think the problem is people don't understand. Defensive backs are not supposed to win. Receivers know where they're going. Defensive backs don't. It takes a lot of skill, as we saw with Shaw Smith-Wade. You know, and the reality of it is, if we get enough pressure, guys like Mike Jackson don't have to do what Shaw Smith-Wade did. They don't have to. It's there. You know, quarterbacks make decisions based on, they have to read and react in a split second. And big growl out to Shaw Smith-Wade. Keep playing up, my friend. It was fitting for what Canellis called a dominating performance by the defense, something he hasn't said to that extent since training camp began. But we've heard that the defense has been having a lot of wins in these practices. Bryce was also intercepted two other times, including a nice interception by Pro Bowl corner J.C. Horn, as he stepped in front of XL and out-leaped him in the corner of the end zone. That's the kind of stuff we want to see out of JC. There's been times in his career he's made some great breaks on balls. He's made some great leaps on balls. He just hasn't been able to finish the deal. This is what we want to see, JC. And you know I am a big fan of yours. We are going to need these this season. I think you're going to do us proud by knocking a lot of these out of the park this season. On the day, there were 4 interceptions and multiple coverage sacks. It was a big boost for a rebuilt defense that was the worst in the NFL a year ago. Now, here's an issue. When you get coverage sacks, that means the coverage is just absolutely great. Now, you can take that 2 ways. You can take it as guys are not getting open, or the right play call was not called, or maybe the offensive line is, doing a good job blocking, and the defensive front is not getting pressure. So you could take that a couple of ways. The defensive line's got to get pressure, and this is where I have a huge issue with the way Avero has treated guys in the past. We've got a lot of speed rushers, and I know we didn't see Derek Brown at the Fan Fest. I think Brown didn't play either. I'm not sure, but Cam Jackson's the guy that's got to play. This is no ifs, ands, and buts about it. The rookie has got to get out there on the field. He's 330. If he can't give you 6 to 7 plays a game with that mammoth size, because the reality of it is he's not going to be ready to go 30 plays a game. Not yet. But if you can get 6 to 8 plays a game out of him, where he's just giving his all and roughing up the guards and the centers of the opposing offense, that's going to make it easier for guys like Derek Brown, Bobby Brown, Travell Wharton. That's what you want. You want to wear that offensive line down so you can make it so much easier for your defense. And we've got a lot of depth, especially at that edge rusher. And it wouldn't surprise me if we take Nick Scorton and put him on the inside, kind of run some of that, what the New York Giants used to do. And it would not surprise me. And if you guys keep up, I'm going to do a show on what the Giants have with Brian Burns, Abdul Carter, and Kayvon Thibodeau. Look, we can sit here and say, they're not big. But when you got 3rd and long and you know they're going to throw the football, you bring in those 3 pretty much edge guys, put them on the line of scrimmage, they don't know what's going to happen. Speed on speed. Edge rusher DJ Wanham said, "We're setting that standard every day." Well, listen, I get it. They had coverage sacks. Wanham got to him. A couple of guys got to him on the rush. But the problem I have is we need to get to him without it being coverage sacks. It's because you're not going to get that every play. I'm hearing out of New York that that Malik Neighbors is uncoverable. Now, granted, they don't have a set of great corners. They got one corner. But the reality of it is, you're going to get guys that you got to get to the quarterback quick. It's not going to be the corners that are going to be able to do this. It's a large ask to ask those corners to really consistently stay with these guys. Which leads me to the question, should the Panthers go after Micah Parsons? Now, we just had a huge draft. taking Nick Scorton and Prince Umanyamilan. This has to be the answer. And the reason why I say that is the Carolina Panthers have enough, I would say they have enough cap space, but they would have to part ways with probably a large assortment of picks, and if I would imagine probably a good player. Probably someone like a J.C. Horn, possibly a Trayvon Moehrig, and a lot of people will say, wait, if they want Moehrig, we can take him. Look, you gotta have a guy that can play safety like Moehrig. I mean, listen, Lathan Ransom's playing great, and I'll get to that. But the reality of it is, people, we can't just sit here and go put all our eggs in one player or in one position when, as of now, I am very confident in what we have in Princely, DJ Wanham, as well as Pat Jones, as well as Nick Scorton. You know, I get tired of hearing other people on other podcasts say, well, they're not proven. No, I'm satisfied with what I'm seeing speed-wise. I think this defense is going to be exceptionally fast, but I think what we don't understand is our offensive line is much better than we think. They're not great pass blockers. You know, we'll get that out of the way now. That's why I'm not a big fan of Canellis consistently wanting to throw the ball. I think, and as you will see in our results at FanFest, I was very pleased at what we got done, because ultimately Canellis needs to realize he's got over $100 million invested in this O-line. You know, and we need to lean on it. And we've got two really bruising backs, really good running backs that really showed us what they're all about at FanFest. But as far as the answer with Micah Parsons, I don't think we need to go that route. I think if we were in a situation like we were last year, but we had the cap space, had we not been spent into purgatory, I would agree that we could get Micah Parsons. I mean, I would not have a problem with giving up the farm as we did with Bryce Young to get a Micah Parsons. But I don't think that's going to – I mean, a lot of people will say that would do wonders, maybe. But where is it going to set your franchise if you have nowhere to go? Because you're going to have to give up multiple first-round picks to get them. And you don't want to have yourself in a situation where you're in the Bryce Young situation and Micah Parsons has shown a propensity to be hurt. Where's your defense going to go from there? And then he's going to command majority of your cap space, where you have Bryce that's going to need to be paid in less than 2 years. You're also looking at getting Ike Ekwonu a deal. And needless to say, yes, you go a little while, but then you're going to need to pay Tetero McMillan. So you don't want to end up in a situation where you're having to pay other players, and then you get to a point where you can't afford it because Micah Parsons is eating up a large portion of your stock, and it's just not working out. Always keep that in mind. The numbers don't fit, and I think they're doing a great job in the front office. They're making some really tough, non-personal decisions, but it's going to work out for the better. I think ultimately this defense has played so really well, which leads me to what Canellis was saying about the turnovers on Friday. He's saying he loves how physical the practice was, and it's continuing to be. Rookie wide receiver Jimmy Horn continues to show that he's more than just a speed guy. He made a great catch on a short TD on the right-hand side. Tommy Tremble continues to increase his workload as he recovers from back surgery. He ran some routes to the side and is moving well, only 3 months removed from his back procedure, that's great news. And I know a lot of people are saying, well, we've got, what are you saying about Mitchell Evans? Mitchell Evans is actually playing well. He's winning the respect of his teammates. But the thing is, injuries happen. This is a league of attrition. You have to be able to keep your guys healthy. And we know over a 18-week season, and then you include the playoffs, you could be healthy all season and then all of a sudden have a major injury, and that's going to put your season in jeopardy, despite the fact you had a great regular season. And if you don't keep guys up to par on what you're doing, the bar shouldn't drop. It's all going to depend on how far the bar drops with the next guy that's backing him up. But let us get in to FanFest as the the Panthers wanted to give a game-like feel, and judging by what I saw, that's exactly what they did. Uh, hats off to Dave Canellis for doing that, making sure the fans saw it in a different light. Going through, rookie wide receiver made an impression catching a pair of touchdown passes in the red zone. So, I'm hearing everybody saying, I don't see how this guy's going to make the team and this, that, and the other. Look, between him and Hunter Renfrow, you get these two guys in the red zone, and coupled with Tetairoa McMillan, Tommy Tremble, and Jatavian Sanders, and even Mitchell Evans. A lot of people are going to say, well, why didn't you say Jalen Coker? Why didn't you say Xavier Legette? Look, these little quick guys here, I'm going to tell you something. You see what these guys can do, how quick they are. You get a second, third, or even a fourth defensive back on either one of these two guys, they're going to get open. And with Dave Canellis' ability to draw up plays and get these guys open, I have no doubt our red zone offense is going to be absolutely stellar. The question is, how many guys, how many of you fantasy guys are going to take Jimmy Horn or Hunter Renfrow? And I'm sure you've all saw the 35-yard touchdown grab that Xavier Legette made on a short pass that he took the distance, and of course did his celebration dollar bill ride. Nellis commented saying he loved the play, but the problem is a lot of his defensive players who have been playing so well took really bad angles, and that is so important in the National Football League. And there were too many times last year, guys. We saw too many times where guys were taking bad angles, and it turned into touchdowns, such as. But hopefully, they can get those cleaned up. I think it's a simple case of the defense was smelling itself. It's had a couple of good days, and they went out there and they got complacent. And XL was hearing a lot of buzz about he needed to perform, and so he did. Mike Jackson made a big breakup on Xavier Legette in the end zone. And I get tired of hearing people say they need more consistency out of Mike Jackson. Look, Mike Jackson is not paid to be a top-tier corner. He's paid to be a second guy. And the reality of it is, until we start understanding that pass rush makes a huge difference with a guy like Mike Jackson, the reality of it is the pass rush has to get better. We could sit here. I mean, he's not absolutely horrible. We saw a lot of times when later in his career, Dante Jackson there were too many times he was getting balls caught on him. So, I mean, we can sit here. We can point out Mike Jackson is very good in a lot of situations. And I'm going to be honest with you. If we can get pass rush, he will make a lot of plays because of his length and his ability to break on footballs. He can make a difference. If we can get pressure, y'all mark my words, Mike Jackson can be a real difference maker. Rookie cornerback Corey Thornton, an undrafted free agent, did a great job putting down Ted McMillan as well as Xavier Legette. I haven't watched a lot of him, but I don't know if this guy is going to make the team. But I can tell you, judging by what Jared Feinberg said about what he did at FanFest, he's actually doing a very good job of making his case. Now, does that mean he's going to be a guy that takes over for Mike Jackson? I don't think so. I think what it ultimately means is he's going to end up being that dime guy. And whether most people realize it, that's that second guy in the slot. You need good, fast guys that can handle their business in the slot. And looking at what he made the statement on about Thornton, Jared Feinberg, that is, being able to do his thing on Ted McMillan is impressive. The 6'1", 195-pound DB out of Louisville. He's a rookie. As many of you know, most of those Louisville guys, they're very physical defensively. The secondary is very physical, and as I said, if Feinberg is stating that this guy is as physical as I think he is, he could very well be a guy that could be brought in to do the things that we need him to do, whether it is moving Mike Jackson to or moving Jackson out of the starting lineup, or possibly just backing him up. But then I'm not hearing much about Mello Dotson's a guy who I was very, very impressed with coming out of Kansas. The very swift, sneaky Shaw Smith Way type of player that he is. Hadn't had a good. He hasn't been talked about. Let's just rephrase that. He hasn't been the guy that has been the object of Canellis' affection. So I'm not saying that he's not doing a great job, but a guy that is really being mentioned by the Carolina Panthers has been one Lathan Ransom. They've been really talking about how his break on balls and his ability to read certain things has been impressive to the point that he is in the conversation for being a starter. But I think the mistrust when it comes to a young guy playing safety has really, played a mark here in this training camp. But once again, Lathan Ransom, Nick Scott, and Damani Richardson are really in competition for that final spot. We've seen a lot of people talk about Shamar Bartholomew, who's been very active at camp, also getting an opportunity. So you've really got 3 to 4 guys in that secondary that are fighting for a position at that corner position, but then you got 3 guys fighting for a starting position at that free safety spot beside Trayvon Moehrig. I think this is going to be an important battle going into the final weeks of training camp, but the one that everybody's going to be looking at is going to be the center position. Austin Corbett and Cade Mays, they've both been going back and forth with the first team, getting their reps and so on and so forth. Your coaching staff is trying to determine which way to go. I'm leaning more towards the vet. A lot of people are going to say, we'll save the money and this, that, and the other. Either way, we're going to need 2 centers. People are going to say, well, Brady Christensen can play both positions. He can play all 5 positions. I get it. But what's going to happen when you get 2 positions, 2 injuries? Chandler Zavala is going to be out a couple of weeks. And really, he's the only guy that I trust on our roster right now that can play all 5 positions. And really, you want Cade Mays if he's here. He can play center and he can play guard. Austin Corbett can play guard and center. In my opinion, yeah, you can try to save all the money you want. What are you going to do with it? Between these two, I think you save $3 million. What else are you going after during the season? I think the only way you make a move with Austin Corbett is if you have an injury. Or if somebody's so desperate to get a center, that's when you make the move. I don't think you make a move this drastic whether you want to go with Cade Mays. But I'm thinking the coaching staff is saying they're running neck and neck. That's what I'm hearing out of camp, is that they're running neck and neck, and Cade Mays is looking like the option, being that he's the more cheaper guy. And he's younger. That's also a big deal as far as when you think about the strategic aspect of this whole decision, that what goes into this decision. I do believe that Austin Corbett is the better of the two because he's more experienced. But Cade Mays did such a great job last season with Corbett's injury, and even winning out Brady Christensen. But I would say he won out Brady Christensen more along the lines because Christensen was needed elsewhere. And it just worked out that that Cade Mays took advantage of his opportunity and just rolled with it, which is a good thing. But ultimately, I would like to see Austin Corbett win this job because ultimately, yes, he is getting back into plans. He's had 2 major injuries, and yeah, it's been tough for him. But then there's Cade Mays. I think ultimately Cade Mays is the guy that he could be a good starter, but at the same token, I don't think we need to go so conservative financially that we miss on what is real. If you got a guy that is, because to me, Austin Corbett's going to be the difference. If they're running neck and neck, to me, his experience is going to be the difference, in my opinion. That's what I would go with. Which pushes me to the last part, the last section of our show. Now, some of you guys heard me talk about the Panthers having a new quarterback. And, what I love about teams that do things like Make-A-Wish is it is a personal, up-close thing that they do with their fans. And the Panthers were able to make 12-year-old Jace Garland's wish come true as he got to meet an assortment of players. And, guys, I want you to go over to Panthers.com news Make-A-Wish and read the full article as Jace was able to sit and was able to shoot hoops with Bryce, and I didn't realize he did this when he was nervous. So something else that was interesting I learned about Bryce's pregame rituals and whatnot. But as I said, Jace Garland is 12 years old, and in 2023, They noticed bruises, and it turned out that when he had a biopsy, his family found out he had myelodysplastic syndrome, which is a rare blood condition that is a genetic disorder which first appeared in Chase and kept progressing as a precursor to leukemia. So he needed a bone marrow transplant and found out what the diagnosis was and what was needed to keep him alive. So everything of course went as to play. I'm not sure what his diagnosis is now, what his prognosis is, but for the Panthers to be able to get involved in this, get in this young man's life who is bravely fighting this horrible disease, is actually just absolutely, it melts the heart. And to see all these guys rallying around this fifth grader was nothing short of incredible. And they were able to call the perfect play in this game. Jace took the handoff from Bryce, took it around the corner and to the end zone for a touchdown. You know, as a father, I can only imagine the type of pain that his parents deal with and the struggles that they deal with this young man's condition. But to see this young man be so full of life and have so much excitement just to be around this organization, it reminded me of when I was 17, 18 years old and I was in love with this football team. And I didn't have leukemia, but I had a dire love for this game just like this kid does. And I want to give Jace a big growl out for his fight. And thank you for being such a huge inspiration to myself, to many people around us, to don't give up the fight and hold on to that keep pounding attitude. We here at Growling and Prowling will be pulling for you, Jace. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you go comment below. And make sure you go to the Carolina Panthers website and check this out. This is a beautiful story about Jace. I wish I could meet this young man. I wish my kids could meet, my boys could meet this young man, because we don't realize how great we have it until we look in the mirror. Thank you, Jace, for being an inspiration. Thank you once again. But before I get too emotional about this, you guys, make sure you leave comments down here. And make sure that you join the show, subscribe to the show, and make sure you hit that bell so you can get the notifications as well. Some of you guys aren't coming back once every blue moon. Either my content's not that good or maybe you're not getting the notifications. But either way, go to Facebook and add yourselves to the group as well as the regular Facebook chat so we can chit chat and talk about other subjects as well. Finally, make sure you go to my Instagram at Mr. CeeLo so you can be caught up on all the shenanigans that I will indulge in. But until the next time, make sure you stay safe, make sure you stay dry, and as always, keep prowling the airwaves and keep growling out. Keep pounding.